The future of Tuvalu, if climate change continues as it is now, we won't have Tuvalu. We won't have it anymore, and people there will be forced to leave their homelands. Aloha, my name is Naima Te Maile, and I am a second-year law student at the William S. Richardson School of Law at the University of Hawaii, Manoa. I'm studying environmental law as a result of listening to stories from my grandfather and other relatives from Tuvalu about the worries that people have when it comes to potentially having to migrate from their homelands as a result of climate change. It comes down to a conversation I had with my grandfather about how he had this land and it was precious to him in Tuvalu, and now he's in the Marshall Islands and he looked on Google Earth to see if it was still there, and it had been completely submerged by water. And so that was just so shocking for him. Tuvalu is experiencing these climate change impacts first and worst, not only because it is a low-lying atoll, but because of sea level rise. And as we know, sea level rise is caused by global warming, and this global warming is occurring at an intensified rate that we've really never seen before in history. The climate change impacts that Tuvalu is experiencing is impacting the livelihoods of the people living there, because not only is their sense of belonging and identity tied up with this land, but that is where their financial security comes from. And so when you're presented with a potential loss of this land, they're forced to consider options elsewhere, which is why we see this large-scale migration from Tuvalu to other islands in the Pacific. So the climate change impacts that we're experiencing and witnessing in Tuvalu are already happening across the Pacific, including here in Hawaii. We see coastal erosion, we see higher rates of flooding, and there's a lot we can learn from our Pacific brothers and sisters in mitigating these impacts. And I think that's important for us to be mindful of as we move through these challenges. We are united by the Pacific Ocean, and to varying degrees we are all experiencing this catastrophe in very similar ways, and they are presenting very similar challenges to different Pacific Island communities.